In the year 742 CE, the bustling city-state of Corinth gleamed under the noonday sun, a vibrant hub where traders from distant lands mingled, exchanging spices, silk, and secrets. Among the throng of merchants, travelers, and curious onlookers, there was Kur bint Yazd, a scholar who roamed the Silk Road, piecing together forgotten knowledge from the past. One quiet afternoon, following a mysterious lead, she ventured into the city's labyrinthine backstreets to meet an elderly bibliophile named Kazim Al-Talii, who handed her a jade-bound manuscript filled with secrets of the cosmos. With a promise to protect the precious knowledge at all costs, Kur joined a caravan headed east, her new manuscript carefully hidden beneath her cloak. The desert stretched ahead, vast and unyielding, and as the caravan journeyed through its harsh, windswept terrain, Kur's thoughts often returned to the manuscript, its cryptic diagrams and ancient wisdom calling to her like a quiet whisper in the night. As the days passed, the caravan encountered many dangers, from desert bandits to mysterious thieves, but the bond among the travelers grew stronger, each of them carrying their own burdens and secrets. As the caravan rested by an oasis under the crescent moon, Kur studied the manuscript's hidden truths, discovering knowledge that could change the course of history. Yet she also knew the dangers of such discoveries. She was no stranger to the shadows that followed rare manuscripts, aware that powerful forces would stop at nothing to keep such knowledge hidden. The journey was long, the risks high, but Kur remained determined, not only to preserve the manuscript's contents, but to share the knowledge with the world, no matter the cost. With each step into the unknown, she moved closer to uncovering a truth that had been buried for centuries, a truth that could change everything. As the caravan continued its journey, the winds whispered of mysteries yet to be revealed, and Kur knew that the road ahead, no matter how perilous, was the one she had to follow. And with that thought, the gentle breeze of the desert night carried her into peaceful dreams. As the stars above beckoned with the promise of endless discovery, as the caravan moved deeper into the desert, the unrelenting sun cast long shadows on the shifting sands, and the days stretched into one another like a quiet, continuous hum. Kur bint Yazd kept the jade-bound manuscript close, wrapped tightly in cloth beneath her cloak, always mindful of the weight it carried. Its knowledge could reshape the world, yet it also made her a target. She could feel the tension in the air, a subtle undercurrent that flowed through the caravan, as each traveler harbored their own secrets, their own fears. With each passing mile, the landscape grew more desolate, the dunes rising like ancient monuments to forgotten gods, while the horizon seemed to stretch endlessly, a barren world of dust and stone. By night, the temperature dropped sharply, and the caravan huddled together for warmth, the crackling fires casting fleeting shadows on the rocks. Kur sat apart, her gaze fixed on the stars, her mind consumed by the manuscript. It spoke of cosmic alignments, ancient civilizations that mapped the heavens in ways far beyond current understanding. But it also hinted at something darker, something that threatened to unravel everything she had worked so hard to uncover. The following morning, a faint unease rippled through the group. The winds had picked up, and the once clear sky was now a hazy, yellowish blur. As the caravan pressed on, a figure appeared on the horizon, a solitary rider, cloaked in dust, riding towards them at an unsettling pace. The caravan slowed, instinctively, as the figure drew closer. It was Aeon, the caravan leader, who signaled for everyone to be alert, her hand resting on the hilt of her dagger. The rider stopped before them, his face hidden behind a scarf, his eyes scanning the group with sharp, calculating precision. After a tense exchange, the rider revealed that he was a scout for a larger group of bandits who had been tracking the caravan for days. His warning was clear: the caravan was in danger. The mood shifted instantly, the air thick with suspicion and fear. Aeon, however, remained composed, ordering the caravan to move at double speed. As the group hurried along, Kur's mind raced. The manuscript, she knew, was more than just a collection of ancient texts. It was a key to something that could change the course of history, and there were those who would stop at nothing to possess it. She glanced around at the faces of her fellow travelers, each one wearing their own mask of uncertainty. Who among them might be working with the bandits? Who could she trust? The caravan pressed on through the desert, the landscape now more hostile than ever. As dusk fell and the cool desert night began to take hold, they reached a narrow gorge, a place where the path was treacherous and the cliffs rose like dark sentinels. Aeon decided to make camp there, believing the high walls would offer some protection against any potential attacks. The caravan set up their tents in the shadow of the cliffs, and as night fell, the sounds of the desert grew distant, leaving only the soft murmur of the wind and the crackle of the campfires. But Kerr couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She took the manuscript from its hiding place and opened it once more, her fingers tracing the strange symbols. A passage caught her eye, an alignment of stars, one that seemed to be linked to an ancient prophecy about a time when knowledge would either enlighten or destroy the world. She had seen glimpses of this prophecy in other texts, but never in such detail. The stars, it seemed, were not merely markers in the sky. They were part of a larger cosmic plan, one that had been hidden for centuries. As she pondered the meaning of the text, a sudden shout broke through the silence. Kerr's heart skipped a beat as she rushed towards the commotion. Malik, the soft-spoken man who had been traveling with them, stood by his chest, which lay open on the ground. The contents were missing. Panic spread quickly through the group. The letter from the governor of Basra was gone, Malik's only means of securing his town's survival. The caravan's calm facade cracked, and accusations flew in the flickering firelight. It was clear that someone among them was working with the bandits. But who? Kerr's thoughts were clouded with doubt. Her eyes flicked to the manuscript, still tightly wrapped under her cloak. Whoever was behind this knew the value of knowledge, and they were willing to do anything to get it. As the caravan prepared to move on the next morning, the mood was heavy. Trust had been shattered, and the threat of the bandits loomed closer than ever. The winds of the desert seemed to whisper warnings, but Kerr knew she had no choice but to keep going. The manuscript in her possession was far too important to leave behind, and its secrets were too powerful to be lost to time. With the stars above and the desert below, she vowed to continue her journey, no matter the dangers that lay ahead. The road would be long, but the knowledge she carried, whatever its cost, was a flame she could not extinguish. As the caravan moved out of the gorge the next morning, the atmosphere remained thick with tension. The loss of Malik's letter hung over them like a shadow, the stolen item a grim reminder of how fragile their safety had become. The desert stretched before them, a vast sea of sand and stone, indifferent to the struggles of those who crossed it. The wind howled, stirring the grains into a fine mist that clouded the air and burned the skin. Aeon led them with unwavering determination, her sharp eyes scanning every ridge and shadow, alert to any sign of danger. The caravan's pace quickened, but even the swift movement couldn't shake the unsettling silence that had fallen over the group. Kerr, still clutching the jade-bound manuscript, felt its weight growing heavier with each step. She had no choice but to stay vigilant. She knew that the deeper they traveled into the desert, the more dangerous the journey would become. The wind seemed to whisper of things beyond their reach, of hidden dangers and forgotten knowledge buried beneath the sands. With each passing day, the caravan grew more anxious, the toll of the desert pressing down on them. Water was rationed carefully, and they had to halt frequently to give the animals respite. Every night, as the stars glittered overhead like distant sentinels, Kerr would retreat to the quietest corner of the camp, where she could open the manuscript once more and decipher its cryptic passages. The symbols on the pages seemed to dance before her eyes, some of them familiar from her travels, others entirely unknown. One evening, as the caravan rested near a small oasis, Kerr came across a passage that stopped her cold. It described a place, an ancient city hidden deep in the mountains, a city where the lines between knowledge and power blurred, a place where the stars themselves were said to align in ways that could grant unimaginable wisdom. The city was called Verez, and according to the manuscript, it held the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. But it also held dangers that had claimed the lives of many who had sought its secrets. Kerr knew that if she could reach Verez, if the manuscript's clues were true, she might be able to uncover the final piece of the puzzle she had been chasing for so long. But she also knew the journey would be perilous. As if on cue, Aeon approached her, her expression unreadable. "We must be careful," she said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The desert is a cruel place, and there are others out here who would stop at nothing to take what we have. Kerr nodded, knowing Aeon's words held weight. The caravan had already faced so many challenges, and the road ahead promised only more dangers. That night, as the group gathered around the campfire, a sense of foreboding settled over them. Kerr's thoughts turned inward, her mind swirling with the possibilities the manuscript held. Was Verez real, or was it just another legend, another myth wrapped in the veil of time? She couldn't afford to ignore it. She had to find the truth. The following days brought more hardship. The wind picked up again, fierce and unrelenting, turning the desert into a swirling, blinding storm. The caravan had to shelter beneath the sparse trees and rocky outcrops, waiting for the worst of the storm to pass. When it cleared, the landscape was altered, the familiar dunes reshaped by the fury of nature. But even in the midst of the storm, Kerr's resolve remained unshaken. She clung to the hope that Verez was out there, waiting to reveal its secrets. It was during one of these lulls that the caravan encountered a mysterious figure, a man cloaked in ragged garments, his face obscured by the folds of a scarf. He appeared from the desert's edge as if he had materialized from the very earth itself. Aeon signaled for the caravan to halt, her hand instinctively reaching for her weapon. The man approached, his eyes hollow and tired, but his gaze sharp. "You seek Verez?" he asked, his voice raspy from the desert winds. The question sent a shiver down Kerr's spine. How could he know? Aeon's suspicion was immediate, but the man's words carried an urgency that couldn't be ignored. "I have seen it," he continued, his eyes locking onto Kerr. "I have walked its streets, but the price of knowledge there is steep. If you seek the city, you must be prepared to face what lies within." Kerr's heart raced. The man's warning only fueled her desire to continue, but she knew better than to ignore the dangers ahead. She exchanged a glance with Aeon, who nodded cautiously, signaling the caravan to move forward. The figure turned and disappeared into the storm as suddenly as he had arrived. The encounter left a lingering tension in the air, but Kerr pressed on, determined to follow the clues in the manuscript wherever they led. As the days passed, the mountains began to rise in the distance, their jagged peaks piercing the sky like ancient guardians. The caravan's mood shifted, the exhaustion of the journey giving way to a tense anticipation. They were close, but Kerr knew the closer they got, the more perilous their path would become. She had no illusions about what they might face. Verez was a city of secrets, and some secrets were meant to stay buried. That night, as the caravan camped near the foot of the mountains, Kerr once again took out the manuscript, her fingers trembling as she turned the pages. The stars above seemed to whisper their approval, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of clarity. The path to Verez was now before her, and she could only hope that the knowledge within the city would be worth the risks she was willing to take. The winds of the desert howled in the distance, but Kerr knew that her journey was far from over. It was just beginning as the caravan began its ascent into the mountain pass. The air thinned, and the warmth of the desert gave way to a biting chill. The path narrowed, carved into stone by ancient hands, and every step forward felt like a step deeper into something sacred and dangerous. Kerr led the way now, manuscript clutched tightly, her every breath visible in the cold air, her mind racing with fragments of the map etched within its pages. Behind her, Aeon and the others moved silently, their usual chatter gone, replaced by the weight of anticipation. The higher they climbed, the more surreal the world became. Strange stone pillars jutted from the mountainside like ribs of a long-dead giant, and eerie symbols shimmered faintly along the rock walls, only visible when the wind shifted the clouds to let starlight in. After days of treacherous climbs and nights spent clinging to cliffs, they finally reached a plateau, and there it was. Verez. It did not rise proudly like cities of legend. Instead, it emerged from the rock itself, a sprawling ruin half buried by time, its towers leaning and broken, its gates wide open as if it had been waiting for them. Aeon urged caution, but Kerr was already moving, drawn by a force she could neither name nor resist. Inside, the city was quiet, not dead, but still, like the pause between breaths. Strange murals lined the walls of the old buildings, depicting people with stars for eyes, their hands raised in worship or despair, and above them, a great wheel turning in the sky. The group split to explore, though they never strayed far. Kerr was drawn to a central temple-like structure, its doors sealed by a mechanism that responded only when she pressed the manuscript against it. The doors groaned open, revealing a vast chamber lit by a strange, soft glow from the ceiling. Constellations moving slowly, mimicking the sky outside. In the center stood a pedestal, and atop it, a mirrored orb pulsing faintly with light. As Kerr approached, her reflection stared back, older, wiser, marked by something unknowable. She touched it. Visions slammed into her. A library of minds, voices whispering secrets of forgotten ages, truths too vast for words. She saw civilizations rising and falling like waves, saw time folding inward, saw herself standing at the edge of all things. The knowledge filled her, burned her, reshaped her. She collapsed. Aeon caught her just as the light faded. When Kerr awoke hours later, the orb was dim, the stars above still turning. She looked at Aeon with eyes that shimmered faintly. "It's not just a city," she whispered. "It's a gate, a memory of the universe itself." They had found what they came for, but it had changed her. As they left Verez behind, the city seemed to fade into the mountain again, as though it had only ever been a dream. The desert welcomed them back with open arms, but Kerr no longer feared it. She carried something greater now, not power, not fame, but understanding. And with that, the caravan moved on, leaving behind the ruins of a forgotten truth and walking into the silence of the sands once more.